Welcome in, guys. Welcome to Benzy's Bit, episode number 3. We are here live this morning. I'm coming to you from Shakopee, Minnesota, just south of Minneapolis. I got a fun-filled show for you guys today. I'm going to go over my top 10 running backs in a PPR format for fantasy football, as well as go over some of the news that's going on all over the sports world, all the way from NHL, MLB, NBA, and NFL. So let's get into it here. The first thing we are going to do is going to be Benzy's breakdown. As I stated earlier, the breakdown is on NFL running backs from 10 to number 1. Once again, it is a PPR format. I'm going to start out with some notables since they didn't make the cut for this year's top 10. First and foremost, it's going to be Miles Sanders. Last season, he had a rough start, but towards week 11 through the end of the season, Miles Sanders rushed for 103 total rushes and 482 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also reeled in 28 of his 36 targets for another 204 yards. I think with a healthy Wentz this season, and obviously that's really debatable on if Wentz can make it a full season, but I think Miles Sanders will be a very, very healthy target going into the 2020 season. Last season, he did average 13.7 points per game fantasy-wise, so that's just a notable. My next notable will be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That has to do with having Patrick Mahomes, but also coming out of his last season in college, he had 215 rushes for 1,414 yards, 16 touchdowns. He also had 55 receptions for 453 yards and 1 touchdown. I think Clyde will be Rookie of the Year. That's who I'm putting my money on. I don't think it will be Burrow. I think Clyde will have it, and Chiefs are going to be a tough one to beat. My last notable is going to be Kenyon Drake. Arizona Cardinals, I have a lot of faith in them really turning their program around this season. Last season, he played in 14 games, averaged 15.3 fantasy points per game. That came off of 170 rushes for 817 yards, averaging 4.8 yards a carry. 8 touchdowns to go along with it. So those are my notables. First and foremost, Miles Sanders with the Eagles, Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the Chiefs, and Kenyon Drake with the Cards. So far, so good with the notables. That's just what we're going to go into the top 10. Starting at number 10 with the Las Vegas Raiders, we have Josh Jacobs. Jacobs only played in 13 games last season. He had 242 rushes in those 13 games and came out with 1,150 rushing yards. That's beastly in those 13 games. And as you'll see, a lot of these backs that, like a Dalvin Cook who didn't get a full season, they put up crazy numbers for not having a full season of numbers. So we'll get to that as well. So staying on Josh Jacobs, in his 13 games, he averaged, like I stated, 4.8 yards a carry and 7 touchdowns. That will be one to watch as well. I think the Vegas Raiders will have a huge rushing attack this year. At number 9, we have Nick Chubb with the Cleveland Browns. Last season, Nick Chubb rushed 298 times for 1,494 yards. That's 5 yards a rush, as well as 8 touchdowns. Chubb will be explosive. I love that he was also targeted 49 times last year. That comes up big, obviously, in PPR leagues because you're getting that point per reception, whether it's a half or a full point. So I have Nick Chubb at number 9. At number 8, this was a tough one. I put Alvin Kamara. He played in only 14 games last season. He still averages 17.8 points per game. He had 171 rushes for 797 yards and 5 touchdowns. The big thing there is he was targeted 97 times, which is crazy. But also, it's hard for me to put him at number 8 because New Orleans is so explosive and their offense is so dynamic. but it all really hinders on, who's getting the snaps. Is it going to be a healthy Drew Brees, or is Drew Brees going to get hurt and you're going to have Jameis in there? Jameis hasn't really ever had a back that he could utilize in the passing game, so that will be interesting to see. At number 7, this one goes out to all the Green Bay fans. I have Aaron Jones. Now, I understand Aaron Jones was a top 5 back last year in the fantasy world. He had 236 rushes for 1,084 yards. He was also targeted a bunch as well. He had 16 touchdowns. I do not expect Aaron Jones to have that many touchdowns this year. I do still expect the LaFleur regime to run the ball a lot. It just really depends on if they're going to go with two-headed monsters or if they're going to just free Aaron Jones and let him go berserk. That's completely up to them. So we'll do a little recap quickly. At 10, we had Josh Jacobs. At number 9, we had Nick Chubb. At number 8, Alvin Kamara. At number 7, Aaron Jones. At number 6, we have Austin Eckler. Last season, huge until Melvin Gordon came back. He had 19.3 points per game in the season. Now, here's the stats that are crucial to making him a number 6, in my opinion. He had 132 rushes for 557 yards last season and 3 touchdowns. That obviously was taken away when Melvin Gordon came back. That's why he didn't have as many rushes. But he did have 108 targets, 92 catches, for 993 yards receiving. Yes, you heard it. 993 yards receiving. That's crazy in of itself. I think Tyrod being their quarterback this season, or so we assume, I think he will be dishing the ball a lot to his check down of Austin Eckler, a lot of screen plays, things of that nature, because he is dynamic. When he gets loose, he's loose. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. He can really maneuver himself through the gaps and on the outside. So I like Eckler at number 6. At number 5, I have Derrick Henry. Last season, he was obviously a monster, 303 rushes for 1,540 yards, 16 touchdowns. He averaged 19.6 points per game in the fantasy world, which is nuts in of itself. I think he still will be the bell called this year. Unfortunately, he was tagged rather than getting his big boy contract, which I guess they're saying you got to earn it. So it will be interesting to see what Tennessee does in the running game. Obviously, you got as far as you did last season only because of Derrick Henry. You can say that everywhere else was conservative, but Derrick Henry was the reason why they made it as far as they did. At number 4, I have Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley averaged 19.5 points per game last season and also had 217 rushes with 1,003 yards, averaging 4.5 yards per carry and 6 touchdowns. That's the hindering on him. Only 6 touchdowns. I know he was dealing with this and that when it came to injuries and such. Also, the Giants really haven't made the turn to be a franchise that I trust putting up fantasy points game in and game out. So that's going to be interesting to see. So once again, Saquon at number 4. At number 3, Dalvin Cook. Cook 'em. My Viking, the talent on the team, unfortunately, he did only play 14 games last season, but he averaged 20.9 fantasy points per game. He had 250 rushes for 1,135 yards. That's 4.5 per rush and 13 touchdowns. That is going to be the definition of injury prone or not. This season has a lot to do with that. What is Dalvin going to be worth? I think they may extend him and come to an agreement prior, because I don't see him playing this season on a rookie contract, even though it's hard to value a Dalvin Cook when he hasn't been healthy ever since he's came into the league, even in college. So you're bringing in a guy and you want to pay him, but what's his value? When he's healthy, he can be an RB1. It's as easy as that. But then you go into the dynamic of, can he stay healthy? I mean, look at what Philadelphia ran into with a Carson Wentz at quarterback. When you pay him the big money, you're not getting big value. You are when he's healthy, But when he's not, you're stuck in a hole. And that's the big thing, especially in the NFL now with running backs. Do you pay running backs when you have all this talent coming out of college? That's another tough situation. All right, so let's recap from 6 down. At 6, we had Austin Eckler, 5, Derrick Henry, 4, Saquon Barkley, and 3, Dalvin Cook. At number 2, you have Ezekiel Elliott, 19.5 points per game. He had 301 rushes last season for 1,357 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. Zeke is Zeke. He's dependable when he's not being dramatic or he's not getting into trouble. But in the fantasy world, Dallas puts up points. And I think I like him at 2. A lot of other guys that I've seen have him right around the 3-4 mark, but I like him at 2. He's dependable. If I had the second pick in the draft, I would be taking Zeke. At number 1, CMC, Christian McCaffrey. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with a Teddy Bridgewater in the backfield. I think that's only an upgrade from Allen, the quarterback last season who took over for Cam. I think based on his dual threat, I mean, last season he had 287 rushes for 1,387 yards, 15 touchdowns. Then you look into the passing game, he was targeted 141 times. He had 116 catches for 1,005 yards receiving. That's crazy. You know, not many guys can state that they went 1,000 for 1,000. So that's big. So once again, we'll go through my top 10. At number 10, we had Josh Jacobs, 9, Nick Chubb, 8, Alvin Kamara, 7, Aaron Jones, 6, Austin Eckler, 5, Derrick Henry, 4, Saquon Barkley, 3, Dalvin Cook, 2, Ezekiel Elliott, and 1, Christian McCaffrey. So that is Benzy's breakdown for the week. Now we're going to head into a new segment, which I like to call Benzy's Baller of the Week. The Baller of the Week that I chose is going to be David Price. David Price pledged to pay each Dodger minor league player $1,000. Now, you would think, what's $1,000? Well, actually, it's a lot because right now, the minor leaguers are getting right around $400 to not play, right? And they're getting laid off. Therefore, what are they going to do? Well, David Price says, I'll throw each and every one of you in the Dodgers farm system. Keep in mind, David Price hasn't even pitched a ball yet for the Dodgers, right? Brand new to the system, but he steps up and says, I've got plenty stashed away and I'm going to get plenty still in my career. Here you go. That's a total of 221 players. So do the math. Even Greg Bauman, Green Bay Greg, who is the host of Green Bay Greg, that's his show name, and also one of my co-hosts on Twist. You can find Twist and more information about us at twistsports.com, twistsportstalk.com. There you go. There's a little extra. But once again, 221 players, each getting $1,000. That's $221,000 that David Price is going to throw. All right, switching in from Baller of the Week to Bonehead of the Week, we're going to go with Henry Ruggs III, rookie that was drafted by the Raiders. He was the number 1 wide receiver off the board this year, and it appears that he has injured his thigh during a moving accident. Once again, let me rephrase that. A rookie wide receiver taken in the first round decided it would be a great idea to help his friend move and cut his thigh while moving things into a trailer. Why aren't you paying someone to help you and your friend move? You don't have to be a multimillionaire to hire movers. Like, I have moved multiple times. I don't think I will ever want to move on my own again. I will hire someone simply because I dread it. But what are you doing? So he cuts his thigh. A Raiders source has said the team was told Ruggs will be fine. Of course he'll be fine, but what are you doing? Like, that's just a huge risk that you don't need to take. So that is the Bonehead of the Week. Going into Benzy's Big League News segment, let's start with the NFL. Vikings Barr and Kendricks asked for answers from the NFL. Barr stated in his tweet, quote, NFL, what actual steps are you taking to support the fight for justice and system reform? Your statement said nothing. Your league is built on black athletes. Vague answers do nothing. Let the players know what you're actually doing, and we know what silence means. Now, that tweet was in response to the NFL statement stating that in communities and as part of the fabric of American society, we embrace the responsibility and are committed to continuing important work to address these systematic issues together with our players, clubs, and partners. So, of course, everyone has been coming out with these vague statements, right? That we are in pain, or we are horrified by the incidents that occurred, and we stand to help change the fabric of society. Great. I mean, those words sound amazing, but what are you actually doing? And that's all that Barr and Kendricks, part of the Vikings linebacker crew, want to know. And a lot of other players have stepped in as well and said, you know, the pretty little statements are fine, but what are the leagues actually doing? That's going to be interesting to see moving forward what actually happens. Let's transition from NFL to NBA. We've got some new news this morning as the NBA models a 22-team format for the season's proposed resume beginning July 31st in Orlando, Florida. This timeline has been shared with teams as the last possible date for Finals Game 7 lands on October 12th, which is a Monday, and they are going to be competing against Monday Night Football if there's a Game 7. Let's be honest, we never know. Commissioner Adam Silver is expected to have a proposal to take a vote on as of tomorrow, Thursday. Okay, so as of right now, with that 22-team format, it's going to be similar to the NHL format, which is going to be that play-in format. So the Grizzlies of Memphis and the Orlando Magic were holding the number 8 seeds in their respective conferences. Now they would have to play in. So even though they were an 8 seed when the season started, that doesn't guarantee them a spot in the actual playoffs. It actually only gets them into the round-robin play-in tournament, which is unfortunate for them. So excited to see how the vote goes tomorrow in that league. Let's transition to MLB. So they're stating right now, the owners and basically the higher ups have stated, let's scrap our original agreements, which obviously weren't agreed on, and let's play a 40 to 50 game season, and the players' full prorated salaries will be paid to them. So taking all the mathematics, which is something that I can't do in my own head, but I guarantee Greg Green Bay Bauman could do so. So we're going to look into that. Can that work, in my opinion? Yes, it can work, and it should work for the players to get paid their salary that they would be making per game. Obviously, they're not getting a full season's pay simply because they're not playing a full season. That should be fine, you would think. But the big thing about the MLB right now is it's like a messy divorce between the players and the owners. Why is all this laundry being aired out to us? Why is it all being so public? Like, sit down, have these discussions instead of releasing your offer to the media, basically, while you're releasing it to the players and then having them rebuttal publicly. Like, that's not the thing to do. And you can see how infringed this whole agreement and arguing is. Either you're in or you're out right now, and the time is dwindling. So either figure it out, play 40 to 50 games, pay them a prorated salary. Otherwise, scrap it, and hopefully you can get ready for next season. But keep in mind, if you do not play this year, the MLB already is losing fans, because who can sit and watch at a young age that slow of a game? It's strategic, and if you like baseball, you love baseball. But if you don't, it's hard to get into it. So that's the big thing. Right now, if you were already playing, your games would be viewed by millions and millions because there's nothing else going on. So let's transition from MLB and let's go down to NHL quickly. Obviously, the NHL, as we talked about on last week's episode, has had a tentative date for playoffs to begin in their round-robin tournament. However, because of U.S. being in crisis, they continue to move back a date, which they haven't even released to the media yet. They've only released it to players. So that's very tough to see what's going on. They're missing out as well. But obviously, there are bigger things going on right now in our country than sports. All right. Quickly falling down to Benzy's bullet points. The Boston Marathon canceled for the first time in race's history. The race began in 1897. That's crazy. English Premier League set to resume on June 7th. I know Mike Reeves, who is another co-host of Twist, which is the Week in Sports Talk. Once again, you can find Twist at twistsportstalk.com. Look us up. Plenty of episodes. Get in on that. But I know Mike Reeves, the co-host, is very into soccer. He's just a soccer junkie. So he's really excited for the English Premier League to resume. Last bullet point that I have for you is Broncos coach Vic Fangio says racism, discrimination aren't prevalent in the NFL. He stated, I think our problems in the NFL along those lines are minimal. We're a league of meritocracy. You earn what you get what you earn. I don't see racism at all in the NFL. I don't see discrimination in the NFL. He says, if society reflected an NFL team, we'd all be great. Whew, okay, hot take. That's interesting for an older white man to state that during these times. See, that's where you would rather have him say a pretty little statement that he's in agreement that there needs to be change. Now, Seattle Seahawks running back Chris Carson took exception to Fangio's view of the league, calling the Broncos coach a joke. And Seahawks teammate Quandre Diggs also waited on Twitter asking, is he blind? So that's that. Vic, I hope you figure it out. In other words, that's going to do it for episode number 3. I hope you guys can hear my cat in this room. He's been silent all morning, and I really hope you can hear his meowing because he's just got hot take after hot take right now. Do you hear him? He's got hot takes. This is my show, Gus, not yours. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and a great rest of your week, and God bless.